Yeah.
You can actually get paid to race instead of paying to race. Which I've done forever, but still.
Yeah.
But as I keep saying to Braydan, you know, I used to get tow money back in the 70s, and now you get nothing for road racing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Can you actually explain on that, Garry? Like the tow racing, the money back then to what it is now?
Oh yeah, if we were going to like Lakeside or Surfers Paradise International, we'd get $500 tow money.
Yeah, right.
In the 70s.
And that was to enter into the race, was it? Or was
it just to go up there and race? And if you started the main race of the day, you got your $500.
We got Garry and Braydan Willmington here today. Boys, where have you been and what's been up getting here?
Oh, it's not too bad of a drive. It's not too long, but we don't get up this way that often for anything other than coming and gathering parts for race cars and that sort of stuff. So we try and make a trip out of it.
Yeah, Garry, what's the plan with Braydan coming up? Obviously, you guys have been travelling as you just mentioned. So what was the go to the trip to Homebush?
Yeah, no, we're just getting some stuff. We're going to do a bit of speedway racing and stuff over the next couple of months and keep that side of things going.
Yeah,
a little bit more bang for your buck than road racing.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Why do you guys like speedway racing more than the road racing, as you said? Like, what's the difference? Do you get more enjoyment out of it, or what's the go?
More enjoyment. It's a lot cheaper, a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
And you can make money out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can actually get paid to race instead of paying to race. Which I've done forever, but still.
Yeah.
But as I keep saying to Braydan, you know, I used to get tow money back in the 70s, and now you get nothing for road racing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Can you actually explain on that, Garry? Like the tow racing, the money back then to what it is now?
Oh yeah, if we were going to like Lakeside or Surfers Paradise International, we'd get $500 tow money.
Yeah, right.
In the 70s.
And that was to enter into the race, was it? Or was
it just to go up there and race? And if you started the main race of the day, you got your $500.
Yeah, right. If you started your main race of the day.
Yep. And that's all you had to do.
Yeah, right.
And to be out on the grid for the main race, and that was it, and you'd get the $500.
Yeah, right. Braydan, for you, when you first started, obviously your dad's had a highlighted career, which we'll touch on.
Yep.
For you, when you were a youngster, watching your dad obviously be the head of Wakefield Park and stuff like that, did you ever do any go-karting or just straight to dirt racing?
Straight to dirt racing. I started racing when I was a lot older than what I probably should have started, but I was my first real taste of racing was a junior sedan when I was 13, and we went interstate to race that because in New South Wales they had a rule where you couldn't race junior sedans until you were 14, but nationally you could race from 10, and I found that out when I was 13. Yeah. So we ended up getting a little Datsun Sunny junior sedan, and my first season of racing was travelling backwards and forwards to Victoria most weekends, so it was really good.
Yeah, right. Garry, for you though, with obviously Braydan when he was starting the junior sedans, did you work on the cars non-stop, and did you ever want him in go-karts or anything like that, or was it just the speedway route, what you did back in the day?
No, well, he always loved speedway. He did, he never raced go-karts, but he did do a lot of laps around Wakefield Park behind quads and things when he was basically very, very young. And he'd do laps around there in go-karts.
Yeah.
But he never ever raced them. But no, we did, and he worked on them too, like the Datsuns and stuff that we did for his junior sedans. We put a lot of work into.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And Garry, for you, how did you fall in love with motorsport? Like, what was the first tipping point for you when you were a youngster?
I used to go to Liverpool Speedway every night it was on back from the 60s. From a very young age, my brother used to take me before I ever got my licence or anything else. I'd go to Liverpool Speedway, and I always loved the super modifieds and the sedan cars and things. I loved Speedway. I very nearly raced sprint cars instead of touring cars. It was a big toss-up to which way I'd go.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And why did you choose the touring car thing, though?
Oh, I just... always just loved Bathurst and just wanted to race at Bathurst no matter what, you know.
Yep.
So that was...
Yeah. And Braydan, for you, what was your first memory as a kid for motorsport? Obviously, your dad was heavily involved, as we've said. But for you, do you remember like a specific moment that you were just interested in that, like, I just want to do what Dad's done?
Yeah, pretty much all the days. I used to spend a lot of time at Wakefield before I went to school, and just being involved in race meetings from a very young age has always just, it's always been what I've wanted to do.
Yeah. And
then even when I went to school, I'd always sort of, every time when he was running the AMRS and the IRS later on, I'd take days off school to go and hang out in the control tower at Eastern Creek and basically be on the radio and do things like that. So it was always good fun. And I always loved motorsport, and it's always everything that I've always wanted to do.
Yeah, right. And Garry, obviously back then you obviously you said you were gonna touch on the sprint cars, but decided to go the touring car route.
Yep.
Was for you, your first racing was on Speedway, wasn't it? Was it on Speedway? No, it wasn't.
No, I raced a Ford Anglia. The first race I ever did, sort of back in 1970, was at Amaru Hill Climb in a Ford Anglia, which I rolled it on the second corner of the second run.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Do you remember much about obviously preparing that car back in the day or anything? Any stories to that?
I remember everything about it. It's like it was yesterday. Absolutely.
You can definitely touch on it on the podcast. You can get it. You can tell us about it. So
I just went and bought a little old Anglia that was absolute, just a bucket of bolts, you know, and I rebuilt it all and put a Cortina engine in it and Weber's on it and all that sort of stuff. Just totally rebuilt the car.
Yeah,
I had two Anglias before I bought the ex-Goss car, but I had the Anglia. I raced the first one, then I built the second one, which is a better car again, and raced that a few times, then pulled the engine out of it, cut it all out and put a 289 Ford V8 in it, but never got to race it with that in it. I ended up selling that. Got a burnt-out XA two-door shell, and I was building up a sports sedan. And then Gossie had won Bathurst in 74 in the Falcon, and then I went and traded the burnt-out shell in, traded the GT Falcon road car I had, everything on the Gossie's old two-door Falcon at McLeod Ford, and got ourselves a custom credit loan with huge interest rates, and was paying off a loan that was nearly my weekly wage.
Yeah, right.
And then we had to find the money to run it. So it was a task, believe me. It was unbelievable, but we made it happen.
Yeah. And Braydan, for you, well, obviously this is very tricky, this podcast, because I got very young and old. So I'm trying to go between the two here.
Yep.
So Braydan, for you, you did obviously not the sports sedans, I just said sedans, the junior sedans and Speedway. And then did you do midgets after that? Was that the next step?
My next step from junior sedans was I did a couple of races in a legend car. Mm-hmm. And then I went to midgets and did 2 years in those, and then went to sprint cars.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. And
I still enjoy midgets far more than sprint cars. It's a lot more fun. The racing's a lot better, and again, it's a little cheaper.
Can you explain to the listeners at home why you prefer the midget to the sprint cars, even though the sprint cars are the spectacular thing on the track?
They are. The sprint cars are fast. They're exciting, but the racing's not as good. You've got the aero, you've got the wing, which makes it harder to pass. You go and watch a midget race, like all the old Parramatta shows. It used to be. It didn't matter if it was just a regular club night. Every feature race was fastest to the rear.
Yep.
And the guys at the back usually always still come through and won it. And it's always exciting. It's really elbows up racing. They're a lot more fun to drive. They're a lot more of a physical car. You got to throw them around. You move around on the track a lot more. It's midget racing and non-wing sprint car racing is my favourite out of everything.
Yeah. And your dad obviously was you loved, Garry, you loved the speedway scene, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, I love the speedway.
More
I didn't
so,
like the
yeah.
midgets so much. I'm more into sprint cars. I always said to him, well, I'll help you with whatever you race as long as it's not a midget. But I want to race a midget. I said, yeah, but they're too dangerous, you know. And
Yeah.
which they are, but he's bloody good in them, and he loves them, you know.
Yeah. And why are they dangerous for the listeners who aren't involved in Speedway? Can you explain to the listeners that?
A lot of people think it's because they don't have a wing, and the wing does act as a cushion in a rollover, but if you set the whole car up, you run a tall cage, you run all sorts of different stuff, just to, like, you have your seat so that you're 4 inches from the top of the cage, and so the diff can't hit the seat. And then once you've got it set up like that, you're pretty well safe.
Yep. Yep. And Garry, you were saying before you were going to go sprint cars before you went touring cars.
Yeah.
Did you actually ever go of the sprint cars before you got into the tar scene, or not really? Or was it just a
No.
toss up at the time? That's when
I had my own super modified type car that I built when I was, I don't know, about 12 years old. I built it at a Holden motor in it, and I built my own speedway track at Luddenham across the road from where I had the workshop because we had a dairy farm and it was on the actual dairy farm. So I had my own speedway track from when I was 12 years old. So I used to charge around there in my own home-built speedway cars. So,
yeah, right.
but I never got to actually drive a sprint car till one night at Parramatta in 1988. I actually got to drive a sprint car in
1988.
a guy said, I was at Parramatta one night because I've always loved the speedway and always gone. And he said, you want to have a drive in the sprint car? And I said, hell yeah. So I was straight in it and had a drive and loved it. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely love them.
Yeah. You grew up in London.
Luddenham, yeah.
London. There you go. I'm pretty bad with with
Geography.
geography. Yeah. With the farm and obviously building out your speedway track, can you explain when you were a young kid, Garry, like, you know, building that farm and building the speedway track when you were, can you tell some stories on that?
Well, my family had farms at Luddenham for forever, and my dad had the dairy farm, so we had to milk cows in the morning and the afternoon and all the rest of that stuff. But because we had fairly big acreage, it was pretty easy. We didn't have a grader or anything, so I actually built my own grader blade to put on the tractor to actually build the speedway.
Yeah, right.
When I was 12 years old, so I did all that. That was the first track I ever built. And, then I'd just build all these cars and drive around the paddock, and I'd constantly fight with my old man because he said, you're going to kill yourself in these cars, because I used to drive like an absolute maniac, and he'd reckon that I was going to get killed in them, but luckily I never did.
Yeah. And then you went from there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And can you remember your first, obviously, did you, because it says on the internet, like it's a bit odd because the internet's a bit off with their statistics sometimes, but it says, Garry, that you raced, like your first meeting was Bathurst. Is that correct though? Like your first official event, or was it?
No.
No. Okay, good.
No, I raced at Marulan and Wakefield Park and all that. And then my first race at Bathurst wasn't until 1978. I entered in 75, and Ivan Stibbard knocked my entry back.
Yeah,
I didn't have enough money to race at Bathurst. And again in 76, again in 77, I entered again, got knocked back again.
Want to hear more? Each week we will share the hottest clips from our guest interviews on YouTube. But to hear the full episode, make sure to subscribe or follow us on your favourite podcast platform.